So you should know you have the event description that's been given to you by the state director or the event supervisor. So you know the content, you know the parameters, you know the resources. You should have also a lot of places will send you photos. If you can't actually get to where you're running the event, they will actually send you photos of the room where they want to hold the event, so you can get a really good idea of what it's like that way. It's always good to know as much as you possibly can about the event before you get there. You also need to allow yourself plenty of time to actually write the event. If you're new at this, or you've only done it once or maybe twice, and maybe you're a little, unsure about your knowledge, depth of level of your knowledge, make sure that you allow yourself enough time. At national competition, we take 2 to 3 months to actually write the event, and that's two of us working together and going back and forth to ensure that we have a really well-balanced event among the process questions, the deep sky objects, the charts, the graphs, and the stellar evolutionary sequence from beginning to end. We work really hard on that. We work really hard on selecting those deep sky objects also. So they're all really important to the process. So make sure that you give yourself enough time to write the event so you feel comfortable about it. And trust me, you can go over it 50,000 times. You can have a friend who's gone over it several times. But the minute that competition begins, a team will find the typo every time. So they're really good at finding any error that might still be in there after all your hard work. So do as much as you can to not let that happen to you, because it does and it will. To organize the content for the developing of the event, you should go to the National Science Olympiad website, to the rules clarification menu, and look and see if any teams have had questions about the event description. If there is something nebulous or they're not unsure, or maybe they've had trouble finding a deep sky object, those questions are going to be asked and sent to the clarification committee. And the clarification committee, when they get those questions, they send them to whoever's event that question is involved with. So if it's an astronomy related or Reach for the Stars related question, they will send it to the people involved, and we all get together and decide on the one answer, and then that's posted on the website. We are not individually, as event supervisors, allowed to answer individual questions, because we might give a different answer to different teams, and that would be unfair. So all questions have to go through the clarification committee. So if you have any ambiguity about anything that's written in an event description for Reach for the Stars, please go there first and look and see before you start preparing your event. And then you can organize the content, making sure that the material you're putting together meets the needs, that it actually addresses the description in the event description, the same topics. Don't throw in anything that's not in the event description, and don't concentrate only on 20% of what's in the event description. The students that are coming in to compete have been studying everything in that event description. That's what they expect to see. They expect to see at least 80% of what's in that event description in that event, in the competition. And some of those teams are going to move on from regional to state to national competition. And you would be doing them a disservice if you did not do all you could do to help them prepare for national competition. And that's how you do it, being true and faithful to the event description. If you're a little unsure of the level of your content knowledge, find someone who can help you. I'm going to show you some resources that would really be helpful for you to use for this event. So just make sure that you write an event that fits the spirit of the competition for Reach for the Stars. Make sure that it is easy to score. Short answers, of course, are best because they're quick to score. You may be having a section of teams come in during the last section of the day, and you have got to really work quickly to get everything scored and graded and put in order for the scoring people, so that they can then, that they're probably already giving away awards for some of the events when other events are still being scored and given to the event scoring, and you need to get those in ASAP. So short answers are okay as long as just a few words and they're not the slightest bit subjective. If there's a second possibility of an answer for some of them, make sure you have both of those possibilities listed on your answer key. And also, you need to also make sure that the people who are scoring, helping you probably have some of those assistants that are helping you score the event. Make sure that one scorer scores the same questions. Because if you have one person score in the first set of tests and a different person score in the second set, they're not going to score the same way. They might call something incorrect that the other person called correct. And now you're doing a disservice to the teams also, because that's giving somebody an advantage, whether it's pro or con. So at National Science Olympiad, the same person corrects the same set of questions for every single team, so that at least we are consistent among ourselves for scoring. You should use sets of images, charts, graphs. Again, you have to, with the first section on this event that involves the identification of constellations and stars and deep sky objects, but also in the second part, you have images of the deep sky objects, you have HR diagrams, you have some spectra. So you should use image sets and graphs and charts also to go along with your answers, so that you can ask answers that are not rote memorization. This is not a rote memorization kind of event. It is supposed to demonstrate a knowledge of the process of stellar evolution. The question should be use maybe an image of a deep sky object, maybe a constellation chart, maybe an HR diagram, and ask a question that involves all three of those images that the students have to look at to come to whatever their answer is going to be to write down. So just factual, please. It's not for rote memorization. You can start out that way simply especially for a regional or an invitational, but then you should gradually build up to more difficult, and maybe not with a regional, but at least by states. You need to be involving the mathematical part of it, the distance modulus and the inverse square law, and those kinds of mathematical computation into the mix also. Make sure you should also, it would be good, because you're going to be looking at a lot of the events from national competition, if you could do the same sort or similar numbering and lettering system that we use. Again, that just makes the teams that make it to nationals more comfortable, because they've seen this same format before. It makes it a little bit easier for anything you can do to make it easier for the teams, because they've got their work cut out for them with all their preparation. They've been preparing, and now they're at your competition taking your event, and they're focused on that and that only. So everything you can do to make it as comfortable and easy for them as possible. And tiebreakers are always a difficulty. I can give you a list of every not to use tie-breaking scenario in the universe, I think. At nationals, we put every single question in tie-breaking order. We determine the order of the tiebreakers, and we use every single question. So we're obviously never going to run out of a tiebreaker. But if you have scores that are very close together, and it doesn't matter what kind of a competition you're in, whether it's just an invitational or a regional or a state or a national, you want the team who did the best job to be number one, and the second best to be number two. And sometimes they can have an identical score. And you want to make sure that you tie break in a way that the best team of those two teams that tied, that the best team comes in front of the other one. So we're really, really careful with our tiebreakers. We've done every question. You can never run out. Sometimes we've had to go a long way down, like 10 to 12 tie-breaking questions before we can do a tie break between two scores that are that close. So bear that in mind too, the tie breaking. It needs to be fast also, because you can't tie break until the very end. And you need to get those scores done and to the scoring people.